Hey everyone, this is Dawn Johnson. I am broker and CEO of Backstage Realty, where we are the rock stars of real estate. This afternoon, I just wanted to take a minute and go over the basics of a sales transaction. So a lot of times when I have new agents that come to me, they don't understand the entire process, so I just wanted to break it down into a high level view of just what the basic steps are, and then later we can break each of those down and go into more detail on how to accomplish each one of those steps. So jumping right in, I usually start with my brand new agents starting as buyer's agents. This gives them the opportunity to work with clients and learn on the go. So when you're working with a buyer, one of the very first things that we're going to do, you talk to a real live person that is interested in purchasing real estate, and the first thing that we need to do is to assess their needs. So this gets into meeting with the client either by phone or preferably in person to do a buyer consultation. To be able to do our jobs well, to be able to fulfill our responsibilities, I need to know everything that I can know about the buyer, their financial situation, their personal situation, what they're looking for in a home, what things are important to them. So all of that is part of my buyer assessment. This also tells me where the buyer is, how much experience they have in the buying process, whether they're going to need a lot of education as far as how things are going to go throughout the transaction, finding out how much have they already gone and gotten pre-approved, where are they in the financing process. So the first major step is buyer assessment and assessing those needs. The second step in the transaction is to find and locate properties that meet those needs. So this is everything from looking on the MLS for sale by owners, using your network of other agents, using your office network. So we want to find as many properties that will meet their needs as possible, because the larger number of properties that we have to search from in the beginning, the better, so that we can get a better idea as I'm sending those. A lot of times we start by sending those via email, and oh, I don't like this kitchen. Okay, well, what don't you like about it? Well, it's really dark, or it's galley style. I want something that's more open, where I can see the family while I'm cooking, and we can all interact. So you're going to learn a lot about the clients when you're getting feedback on the properties, but to be able to do so, you have to have properties. And being summer of 2021, there are not a lot of properties on the market right now. So this actually takes a lot more research than it would in other markets if the market were leaning more towards a buyer's market or even towards a level market. However, very important step is locating properties that meet their needs. Now, not just meet their needs, the needs that they told you, I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, fenced yard, but what have you found out about their life and about their habits and their work commute and where are they working and all of those things, because although it may not hit a high priority in their mind right now, if they're telling you it's really important that I'm at my son's Little League game, I want to be at every practice, I want to be at every game, and then they pick a house that has an hour commute from work, most likely that is not going to work in the long run, and they're not going to be happy in the house. So really helping them stay focused on the things that are ultimately important, because all of us are guilty of, bright shiny object. You see that really nice house, but it's not quite where you want it. And there's a lot of times that people end up in houses that they're miserable with. So keeping them focused on those properties that best meet those needs. And then the third step is actually showing those properties. So we're actually going to take them out, and then again, we're going to reinforce the things that they told us were important to them. So we're going to focus on how they're going to live in the house. Oh, that's great, you love the house and it's got the 5th bedroom and all of that, but didn't you say that you cook every night and you want it to be, you have these large family gatherings and everybody congregates in the kitchen, and this has got a little tiny galley kitchen. So, maybe that doesn't work for your lifestyle, although it checks all the other boxes and you're like, oh yeah, it's nice and shiny and it's got all the modern updated stuff and it's in the price range. So there's a lot to work with there. And a lot of salespeople are like, yeah, great, ding, we're going to put you in the first one that checks the boxes. I'm not like that. I'm looking for the long-term enjoyment of the client. I want them to be happy there. I want them to be like, oh my God, you helped us pick a great house. We lived there for 10 years and we were so happy, or 3 years, or whatever the case may be, at that portion of their life, at that stair step in their life. And also in this step, when we're showing properties, I also want to be looking for anything that is going to cause a problem in the transaction or is going to be an issue for my buyer later on. So things that I'm looking for are age of systems. So it's very common for investors to flip houses and they do all of the shiny, pretty things, but they don't necessarily do all of the big things. So while they're looking at, the beautiful laminate flooring, I'm looking at the electrical, at the plumbing, at the seller's disclosure, at the age of the HVAC, at the age of the water heater. Now, I'll probably get a lot of pushback from other realtors that watch this video. They say, well, that's what an inspection's for. That's not your job. That's not your area of expertise. However, I want to know for myself and my buyers in advance, because everything is fixable and everything's negotiable in a contract. So if I know early on, prior to the inspection, that the water heater is going to be a problem, then perhaps I can negotiate that as part of the replacement of that as part of the sale, and negotiate that into the contract. So anything that I can do, anything that I can find that could be an objection or a stumbling block for my buyer, I want to make sure that I go ahead and identify up front as quickly as possible in the transaction, before or after going under contract, so that we can alleviate any issues further down the road. So that is step number 3. Step number 4, obviously, is to write the offer and negotiate the contract, and get it under contract. So step number 4 is getting it under contract. So you've already done your buyer assessment, you've assessed properties, you've shown properties, you found the one, you wrote the contract, you already know what the needs of the buyer are financially. You've already done your assessment of the buyer. You've already looked at, found out about their finances on all of that. And so now it's time to make sure that we can get the contract put together. And again, making sure that everything is very clear, very concise in the contract, that there's not going to be any gray areas, that either party is going to have issue with further down the road. Number 5, this is where, after you're under contract, is where actually all of the work happens. So the first thing that we're going to do is follow up and get the contract to all of the parties that need it. I do a nice little VIP letter, which I share with all my agents, that has all of the major points. I attach a copy of the contract, I send it to the lender, I send it to the title company, I send it to the other agent, I send it to my clients. And it has instructions for my buyer on there, which include things like scheduling the inspections. It has instructions for the lender. Like right now, appraisals are really slow, so it says right on there, hey, if you're an out-of-area lender, make sure that you go ahead and order the appraisal right out of the gate, because this, in this market, in our area, appraisers are backed up. Following up on the earnest money deposit. We do not send out wiring instructions. This is actually part of my signature line. We do not send out wiring instructions, but I do follow up to make sure that the earnest money has been received. It is also my responsibility as the buyer's agent that if they don't receive the earnest money deposit, I need to call the seller and the seller's agent and let them know why the earnest money has not been turned in. So I'm going to follow up with my client. I'm going to follow up with the title company and make sure that the earnest money is turned in. I'm going to follow up with the lender and make sure that their loan application has been turned in a timely manner. So typically your standard contract defaults to a 5-day a loan application deadline and a 30-day loan approval deadline, I am going to call the loan officer and make sure that they have A, received my contract, and B, received the loan application from my borrower. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to follow up. Now, I have already sent the VIP email that has told my buyer that they need to schedule their general inspection and their wood destroying organism inspection, and it even has suggestions for companies that do that along with the contact information. I'm going to follow up with my buyer and make sure that they have scheduled that and get the date and time so that I can coordinate it with the listing agent and make sure that the property is available, utilities are on, all of those types of things. I am going to follow up with my buyer at intervals throughout this to make sure that they have their insurance bound and that the insurance binder has been sent to the title company. I'm going to follow up with the title company and make sure that the survey has been ordered, that the title work is okay. I'm going to have them send me a copy of the title work to see what type of exceptions are in there. Make sure that I provide a copy of the title work to my buyer to qualify that section of the contract. I am going to do things like scheduling the final walkthrough. And when I do that, I'm going to make sure that any repairs that were required per the contract that we have requested after our inspections have been completed, and that I have a contract of that receipt with me when I do that final walkthrough. I'm going to help my buyer to schedule the closing, and I'm going to review all of the closing documents and the closing statements. If there's a home warranty, we don't necessarily have to order it, but you do have to make sure that it gets ordered. If you ask for it in the contract, make sure that either you order it or the listing agent orders it or the title agent orders it. Most importantly, that it's clear who is going to order that home warranty. And then I think one of the most important things, and this is usually where people drop the ball, is following up after closing. So you've done all the things, you've made sure that the keys were at the title company, you've done your final walkthrough, you've given your buyer the list of utilities, they've done everything, you get to closing day, you're so excited, they sign their documents, and a lot of agents never speak to their buyer again. And there just seems to be something really lacking in this step, is just follow up. Maybe 2 days later, just call them and talk to them. And I usually, wait a month or two and then I'll call them again. And I tell everybody at that point, they're probably going to have a couple of things to tell you, oh, well, we didn't know, like, the door in the bathroom is so weird, it shuts all on its own and doesn't stay open. I wish I would have known that. They're gonna have all of these things, these reasons for buyer's remorse as they're learning about the property. A lot of times they absolutely adore it and love it right from the get-go, but a lot of times you'll have a little bit of buyer's remorse. And then when you call back in about 6 months, they're back to loving the property. They're in it, they're done moving, the pictures are hung, everything is great. They probably spent a major holiday in Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever there already, and so that is a great time to follow up with them. So I hope this really helps you in planning and following up on your transactions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to always give me a call. My number is 850-496-2051. Thank you and have a rockin' day.